Hey guys, welcome back. Hope you're well. Well, it's the following evening, and I've just spent the last half hour doing a bit of tinkering around in here. Really, it's just been trying to sort of reacquaint myself with how this thing works. I used to be an expert on this in years gone by, but I've forgotten most of it. So I think I've got an idea what's going on now. So if we bring the camera over and give you a closer look. Right, so this is the guts of it in a nutshell. Ignoring the head drum arrangement for the time being, you can effectively say that everything else runs off one motor, which is this one up here. On the other side there's a belt that joins that to that, so that's the main drive which feeds with the belts, which I've actually taken off at the moment just so I can see what's going on. So the flywheel is kind of the heart of it. That's the capstan that regulates the tape speed against the pinch roller, and in normal mode that will just spin freely, and the only time it gets stiff is when it's got to drive everything else. It turns out that there's some sort of cam gear arrangement under here that engages every now and again, and it's powered by the flywheel that moves all this tape transport malarkey about. So if I put it into play, which I think is that one, see it's gone stiff now, but if I force it far enough, keep watching, you can see the tape guides are actually moving, and once you get to that point it will click. There we go. That's now in the play position. This has gone slack again. So if I had the belts connected and powered up, everything would be running at the moment. And again, if I press stop, the cam underneath re-engages with the flywheel takes control and moves all the tape guides back. There we go, that's free now. So yeah, from that test we can see that this mech is actually doing what it should be doing. The only problem is that this cam gear is as stiff as all hell. You've really got to force that flywheel around to do it, and obviously the strength of the belts is not enough to do it, and I suspect that even if the belts were brand new, that would still be too tight to run under its own steam. I suspect that the cam gear, probably not so much under here, but under here, which is where all the gears and followers connect to, I think there's probably some of that roofing cement stuff that's got stuck in there. So I'm hoping I can get this cover plate off, get access to all that, and try and re-grease it and free everything up. I think that should get it going. Right, with the lid off you can see what I mean. There's the flywheel, that connects to that cam there, and that moves all these bits of metal around. Now if I press play, that re-engages it. So if I spin this, it's very stiff at this point. That's really hard to turn. Now it's freed up. You can see that little gap there going around. It's moving all those tape transport bits. A little bit tight there, and then it'll suddenly get a lot freer as it. There we go. That's released now, so that's in play mode. Let's put it into stop again. There we go. Now that little follower there, that's one of the toughest bits. Just to get that started to that point, you've got to really move. So I'm hoping a little bit of grease in both these little areas here might just free things up a bit. It's worth a try. Right, so I've wiped off the old grease as best I can with a screwdriver and a toilet roll. So it just remains now to just dab a bit of fresh grease on with a screwdriver. Dab a bit in there. Can't do this very easily with a camera at the same time, but hopefully you get the idea. Just carry on getting some grease in there. I don't want to take all this apart if I can avoid it. This looks like an absolute nightmare to put back together, so if I can just ease the grease in where I can, anywhere I can't get it, I'll just get a cheeky squirt of WD-40, I think should just free it up. Yep, I think that's done the trick. If I put that into play mode, there we go, and then we'll spin the flywheel. There we go, that was a lot easier than it used to be. And again, if I put it into stop, I'll do the reverse. There we go, back round again. That moves a lot more freely than it used to. A little bit of grease and some WD seems to have done the trick. So I just need to put that lid back on and we'll see how we get on. Right, well that's the drive belts back on, so I think it's just time now to fire it up, see if it's made any improvement. It's trying, I can hear the motor going. Ah, look at that, it's rewinding. And it's fast forwarding. Wasn't doing that before. We're getting somewhere. Yeah, that's definitely some progress. I've got an idea. Let's try sticking a tape in it and see if it's actually strong enough to wind a tape in both directions. That'll give us a clue as to what state the belts are in. Yeah. Yeah, we're getting somewhere now. Okay, we've clearly still got a slipping belt somewhere, and I've just worked out how and why. Watch this. If I hit rewind, you can see we're almost at the start of the tape here. When it gets to the end of the tape, there's a bit of clear leader, and you might have noticed the you can see there's a little light, and there's two photo sensors there and there. And the idea is when the clear leader tape comes in, it allows the light, he says, shutting that, it allows the light from there to enter the photo sensor there when it picks up that bit of clear leader tape, and that activates the auto stop circuit, which is a little solenoid that pops the rewind button back up. And if I rewind it all the way to the start, see, it's strong enough to do that, but when it gets to the end, that clicking noise that we heard last night, that is the auto stop thing that hasn't got quite enough strength on the pulley to go round. And if I look underneath, I can show you. I've just taken the belts off again so we can see what's going on. You'll notice on this flywheel, see, it's got little bits that stick out underneath, these bits here. Now, when it needs to auto stop, this little solenoid here, that energizes, and when it energizes, it pushes that little activator so it interferes with one of these sticky out bits, and as it does so, it pulls the mech that way, which is engaged to the piano key linkage, and that's what makes it stop. So clearly there's not enough strength on this pulley to carry on under its own steam to carry on along there. If we engage that, there we go. He says, there we go. Yeah, it should be able to move that, but it can't, because it's either the belt here that's slipping or the belt that runs from there to there that's slipping. So I need to find out which one that is. Okay, well, it's a little bit later on and I've discovered which belt was slipping. It is the one that goes around the capstan flywheel, so I'm going to have to find another belt from somewhere. But it does mean that in the meantime I can sort of tease it into working. If you just sort of force the thing round as you hit play, it will engage and start playing. So curiosity has got the better of me. Let's give this a try. Well, here we are then. I've got a TV hooked up to the composite out on this thing. I'll be honest, if this works it'll be a minor miracle because the heads are filthy, but it's an old scrappy test tape. Nothing to lose, we'll give it a try and see what happens. So if we put it into play, give it a helping hand, there we go. Off it goes. Anything happening? That's looking like a big sack of no at the moment. Let me just check the connection at the back. We're getting nothing. Nothing whatsoever. Tracking? No. And wait, I spoke too soon. I left it to run for a bit, and look at that. Now, granted, that's not a fantastic picture, I'll give you that, but this is the first time this thing has actually made an image of any sort in 25 years. I think that's a bit of a result. Yeah, I've got to say, I'm pretty pleased with that as a result tonight. Obviously, it's unstable as all hell. I think the tape guides need adjustment. The heads obviously need a damn good clean, and it's probably not helping that these belts are so old and knackered as well. It probably means that the head drum isn't spinning as fast as it should, or there's some sort of irregularity in the speed with these other belts that are going on. It doesn't take much to upset the picture on one of these things. So I think the next thing to try is, other than clean the heads, I need to order a new belt kit for this. There's no getting around it. Right, well, I've been doing a bit of looking around on eBay. It's taken a bit of searching, but I think I've found what we're looking for. We've got a set of 7 belts for a VCR JVC HR-4100. Now, that's not quite the machine I've got, but I think the mech is similar enough that the belt should fit. It's not cheap. Looking at about 25 quid all in for a set of belts, and I'm going to have to wait till sometime between the 19th and 29th of May, so anybody's guess when that turns up, but hopefully that should get this up and running nicely. So there's not a great deal I can do with the mechanism at the moment. I think we're going to turn our attentions to this here camera. As far as I know it works. It worked when I last used it in the 90s, but whether it still works is anybody's guess. But now that we've got an almost working VCR to plug it into, I think it's time to plug it in and see what it actually does. And all these cameras always used to use this standard, well, it was standard for the job, 10-pin connector. So that end goes into the camera socket on the VCR. Right, now because of the way that this thing works, you can't actually get a live feed from the camera straight to the TV. There's no sort of loop through on this VCR, primitive as it is. The only way you can get a signal out to the telly is to actually put a tape in it and start it recording. So we'll get some electricity on it. We'll probably have to give it a bit of a helping start to get it going because this belt's a bit knackered. If we press record and play, there we go, that's starting. And we're recording. Keep an eye on that telly. Oh yes, it's a tube camera, so it takes a little while to warm up. But you can see there is a picture of sorts. Yes indeed. It's not much of a picture and it's very red. Let's just see if we can adjust the colour balance on it. I think the tint control's a bit dirty. I've just given that a bit of a wiggle. That seems to have brought it back. Okay. Now, the thing about these old tube cameras is they're extremely insensitive to light. Nowadays you get a crystal clear picture in this room, which is, to be fair, not very bright. I've got a light on the top, I've got my desk lamp on. That would normally be enough, but for a camera of this age you really need to throw some light at it to see anything. So, with one of these, I'm hoping I might just be able to keep it on that TV. So even then, the amount of light I'm throwing at that, and if you watch the TV, it's not very bright. We really have come a long way. It's amazing that it still works. I've noticed one thing though, the start-stop button on the camera doesn't do anything. The tape is still in pause at the moment, it's not running. You should hear it click and start recording when you hit the button, but nothing's happening. So either the button's broken on this camera or there's something wrong with this that means the tape's not going round, and I don't know what it is. So that's going to be something to investigate. Why doesn't the tape run? Okay, well it's half an hour later. I've done a bit of jiggery-pokery. Turns out the trigger switch on this camera obviously just a bit dirty, so I've just had the lid off and given it a bit of a squirt with the old Servicel, and that seems to have done the trick. If I press the button now, you can hear that click. That's the machine going into pause and record. So if I can just grab my light, there we go. As I said, I need lots of light to make this thing work. And I'll start recording. There we go, that's rolling now. So the first time in God knows how long this thing's actually recording something. I'm not guarantee it's very good given the state of the heads and everything, but it's going through the motions. Happy days. There we go, there's the other camera recording the camera. So yeah, I call that a bit of a result. Job's a good one. Well, so far so good then. It's looking promising so far. We've got a camera that's doing what it should, and we've got a recorder that's showing signs of life at least. And there's not a great deal more I can do for the time being because we're waiting on these belts to turn up from somewhere in France. So for the next week or two, not a lot happening. In the meantime, I need to give everything a bit of a clean up. I also need to sort out some sort of power supply to run this recorder when we take it out on location. But otherwise, I think we'll be doing another update to this video as and when these belts turn up. So stick around, I'll be back.